Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into just one article, but it's really thought-provoking. Offers a truly unique way to look at something we all deal with constantly, our emotions. It presents this compelling idea that our feelings are basically like soldiers on a personal battlefield.
That's right. And our mission, for this deep dive is really to unpack that metaphor, this whole concept of naming your emotional soldiers, and to explore how getting more precise, really identifying those feelings, well, how that might give us a whole new way to handle the everyday chaos.
Okay, let's get into it. So the article starts by kind of positioning you, the listener, as the general in this whole picture, with life itself being, well, the battlefield.
Exactly. And your army, that's your emotions, always marching into daily combat, reacting to everything around you. The piece sort of paints this picture of a time when it felt like the general that's you had, like, no real clue who these soldiers even were. They just charged ahead, some making you want to retreat, others making you explode without any warning.
And your only tools for understanding them were these really broad kind of vague labels, like just I feel bad or I'm anxious or, I'm annoyed. It's that feeling of being totally overwhelmed, right? Having no clue how to actually command your own internal forces.
Yes, exactly. That lack of specificity, it leaves you feeling kind of powerless. But the path forward the article suggests, it came from a really simple but actually quite profound idea. Give them names.
Okay, and this is where it gets uh, really fascinating. The article brings in this key concept, emotional granularity.
Hmm.
What exactly does that mean here?
Emotional granularity. Well, at its core, it's your ability to pinpoint and tell the difference between your feelings with like high precision. And the article makes a really powerful point. The more granular you are, so the more precisely you can actually name what you're feeling, the more efficiently your brain can, process that emotion. It even mentions some research suggesting that making up your own words, like personalized phrases for complex feeling combos, that can boost this granularity even more.
Huh. So right in the middle of life's messy moments, knowing exactly which specific emotional soldier is charging. That's not just some academic exercise. It means you actually gain the ability to lead them instead of just being like swept away by this anonymous crowd.
Precisely. And this whole approach, it connects really nicely with an old Stoic idea the article mentions, the dichotomy of control.
Ah, yeah, that core Stoic insight. You can't always control what happens outside you, or even if an emotion just pops up, but you absolutely can control how you perceive it and how you respond to it.
Exactly. And naming, in this way of thinking, is presented as something completely within your control. When you name an emotion, you're not trying to squash it or pretend it isn't there. You are, in a very real sense, taking back the reins from its sort of automatic influence. It's framed as the absolutely vital first step towards understanding and ultimately command.
But then the article quickly kind of challenges our usual words for feelings. It points out that those broad traditional labels like anger, sadness, or anxiety, they're just not detailed enough, are they? They feel too generic, almost clumsy, for how complex our inner lives actually are.
Yeah, it's like trying to command an army by just shouting, hey, you, and you over there, on some chaotic battlefield. Nobody knows who you're talking to, least of all your own soldiers, right? The article argues that every single one of these emotional soldiers marching through your experience, they deserve a much more specific name.
And this is where it gets really practical and honestly quite relatable. Instead of just the generic, I feel anxious, the article encourages getting vividly detailed. Give some great examples, like the sweaty palm floating feet kind of anxiety I get specifically while waiting in the hallway for an interview.
Or moving beyond just, I feel down, to something more like that hollow letdown feeling of finishing the last potato chip in the bag way too fast.
Okay, that one hits home. And for anger, it's not simply I'm angry, but maybe that specific fury mixed with helplessness after arguing with her and feeling completely, utterly unheard.
And what's really striking here is the emphasis the article puts on why the specificity matters so much. The more detailed and personal the names are, the better you can understand these feelings and eventually lead them. They stop being just this undifferentiated noise or, a confusing mob, and they start becoming distinct soldiers with their own history, their own triggers, maybe even their own potential purpose.
Okay, so we get why this granularity, this specific naming, is presented as being so powerful. But the big question then is, well, how do you actually do it? How do you come up with these clearer, more detailed names for your own feelings?
Yeah, good question. The article offers some pretty simple guiding principles for this. It suggests using memory, the setting, and physical sensations as your cues. The goal isn't some kind of clinical diagnosis, right? It's about creating a name that makes the emotion feel personally real and recognizable to you, almost like it's a distinct individual rather than just a label off a list.
Right. Let's look at those methods. First, using the setting.
Oh.
Where did this feeling pop up, or where did it feel strongest?
So an example from the article is naming a feeling like that specific bored frustration I get from waiting in line at the local breakfast shop. The location itself helps to anchor and define that particular flavor of frustration.
Okay. Then, using physical sensation.
Yeah.
What did your body actually feel like when this emotion was happening?
Yeah, the article gives examples like that burning shame that always seems to sit right in the back of my head, or maybe that soft, quick tremble in my fingers that comes with anticipation. These tie the emotion directly to your own lived physical experience.
And finally, by story or context. What specific situation or trigger brought this feeling on?
Like identifying that particular floating unease I get after sending a message and getting absolutely no reply. The specific event becomes like an intrinsic part of that emotion's personal identity for you.
And the article points out these names you come up with. Well, they might not be in any psychology textbook, but they are profoundly real and personal to you. They serve as these powerful reminders that this specific emotional soldier, this particular pattern of feeling and reaction, has been here before, and it'll probably be back.
Exactly. And by recognizing him, by calling him by his name next time he shows up, the article suggests you're much better equipped to understand him and ultimately lead him into the battle of daily life instead of being blindsided or, totally overcome by him.
So, okay, zooming out a bit.
Mhm.
What does this all really mean? What's the core takeaway here from exploring this unique perspective on our emotions?
I think the central, most impactful idea is this. The ultimate goal isn't to get rid of your emotions. You don't just disband your army, right? The real goal is to become that capable general, the one who understands their troops and can lead them effectively.
And the absolutely fundamental, you could say crucial, first step in stepping into that role, being that general, it is simply calling those emotional soldiers by their names, the names that are specific and real and meaningful to you.
And taking just that one single step, the article argues pretty convincingly, has the power to genuinely help you feel and remain just a little steadier, a little more in command, right in the middle of all the swirling chaos of everyday life.
And the article kind of leaves us with this final thought, which I think is worth sitting